brick and mortar grocery stores in parts of the city that are not served currently by grocery stores. These are private individuals who want to do this on their own because Kevin Shalin, some of you know Kevin, he's also known as the Mighty Rib with a food blog. Kevin and I have had multiple meetings with folks who want to open a grocery store, and unfortunately, the case has been that they had a lot of really high hopes, and this was kind of an aspirational proposal that they were bringing to us, but the reality of actually running a grocery store was not something that, by and large, these folks were prepared to do. Another person we met with went to the Planning Commission because she wanted to get a property rezoned so she could open a grocery store. The Planning Commission said 2 thumbs up, we'll approve that, but the neighbors opposed it, which meant it came to the Little Rock City Board of Directors. The director in that board opposed it because his neighbors opposed it. Oftentimes we will work with the director of whatever neighborhood it is about whatever project is and find out, why they're so vehemently opposed. But in this case, I voted with the woman who wanted to open the grocery store, not with the ward director, but the majority of the board voted against this particular grocery store, so that did not pass at the board level. I haven't spoken to the woman recently, but I think that she is going to maybe look for another spot, retool her proposal. So what else are we doing? The Food Commission has worked with the state rep I mentioned earlier, Tiffany McCullough, in a variety of ways. During the last session of the legislature, Representative McCullough got a food desert bill passed. So again, 20 years to get a food desert bill passed in the Arkansas legislature, and I will say that it was a much better bill than those that we looked at during my time in the legislature. So Representative McCullough's bill, and it was not only passed, it was signed into law by the governor. It wasn't one of those bills that became law because, it waited 5 days and it would become law without the signature. Tippy did the quiet work to get the bill passed. We met with folks from Economic Development, we met with the Wholesale and Retail Grocers Association, and her bill would provide funding for interested parties, not just for a brick and mortar grocery store, but projects like the one we have in Little Rock, the mobile market, for all sorts of projects. And a lot of those projects were things that we learned about during the 2 food desert task forces. For example, in some communities where a lot of folks don't have transportation or access to a grocery store, communities were able to purchase a refrigerated van and then use an online ordering system. And twice a day, that van went to a grocery store. The grocery store set all the groceries aside for the people who had ordered, and then they brought them back to a convenient place in the neighborhood, and people were able to pick up those groceries. We looked at that for a small town near Little Rock in Jefferson County as a model that might be workable there. So all of these things are covered in Representative McCullough's bill. Now, the bad news is you can pass a bill in the Arkansas legislature, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be funding to go along with that bill. So since the session has been over, this was in the 2025 session, since that time, Tiffany and I have been talking to folks who are in the know on the state budget, We invited the governor and the first gentleman to come to the launch of the mobile grocery store. The first gentleman was there. He had a tour. He is very aware that we need to have this project, that similar projects need to be funded in the next session of the legislature. It would not happen in the fiscal session, but it would happen in January. So we are working hard. We had a meeting yesterday afternoon with somebody from the Department of Finance and Administration, the FNA, and talked to them about funding. So I think the next, unless we had a private grocer come to us or a private individual and say, I've got $20 million, I'm going to open a brick and mortar, which would be great, we are going to continue to seek funding at the state level for a variety of projects. And we seriously looked at projects from all over the country that are not your typical brick and mortar grocery store. I think that Little Rock was very fortunate a couple of years ago when Kroger closed on Canis and Edwards went in and opened a wonderful grocery store in that place. That is not typical. We're also keeping an eye on stores that are currently open, because when we keep up with the chains and we hear things like X chain may close 50 grocery stores around the country this year, you've got to wonder if one or two of those may be in your market because of things you know about the profit margin and a little bit about their business model. So I can't give you any wonderful news today that somebody brought $20 million or $10 million and that they're going to open a small grocery store in Ward 7 or on the, in the John Barrow area. But I can say that the mobile market is a step forward for us, and we're actively pursuing other opportunities to get either other types of projects or brick and mortar. The Minority Health Commission is making a number of grants available. Those people have already applied for those. I'm going to be one of the reviewers. I believe those grants are up to $20,000, and they would also cover a variety of projects, sort of like the projects that are covered in Representative McCullough's bill. And so probably a couple of those will be in Little Rock, and we'll have maybe a couple of different types of projects. So a lot of things going. Check out the mobile grocery store, and I think we've got 5 minutes for questions before we move to the next part. Celia or Reb, either one.
Lady and then the gentleman, how about?
Okay.
How do the prices compare? Can they be competitive for the grocery stores?
And thank you for asking that question. We have worked with, and I say we, and sometimes I'm really talking about UA Little Rock because that's who has the MOU, but we are working very closely with them, and they are partnering with Edwards on this grocery store because it was critical that this not be like a mobile convenience store to go into areas that were already pressed, where folks are more pressed for food dollars, and offer things at convenience store prices. So Barrett did a great job of working with Edwards so we can offer things that are at a competitive price and that are not ripping the neighborhood off. They are in the process of being approved for SNAP and WIC, and folks will be able to use their SNAP or WIC cards. And then another thing that we saw in Memphis that they are working out final details on here. A lot of folks who are on SNAP, by the end of the month, you're pretty much out of money, and you're out of benefits as well. And at the mobile market in Memphis, what they did was, and they had private funders, do some of these kind of programs, but you got like a loyalty card. And if you spend, in Memphis, if you spent like $20, whether it was your money or SNAP benefits during the course of the month, you would accrue dollars on your benefit card. And then you were able to go in at the end of the month and use those loyalty dollars to get fresh fruits and produce at the end of the month. And so Barrett is working on 2 or 3 different projects. And I will tell you bluntly, most of these projects that we looked at around the country, they're not money makers, they're not sustainable. And so we are helping raise funds, private dollars, for this project. And I had somebody I approached who gave us $100,000 for UA Little Rock for future breakdowns, bus breakdowns, truck breakdowns, or things like that. We had the church step up, and they have pledged $75,000 a year for 3 years, and they've already raised that money. When they get a little bit more stable, and I mean stable with all the glitches worked out that you always have when you launch a new business, we've talked about going to small businesses and folks and saying, look, it costs $1,200 to do 1 stop. And would you like to sponsor a stop? And I think there are quite a few businesses and maybe some elected officials who might want to sponsor a stop. They also will, at some of the stops, do nutrition education. And the things that they talk about in the nutrition education programs are items that will be available on the mobile market, and folks will be able to get recipes and things like that. And this is not a Little Rock thing, but right now the state has a rural health transformation grant, and Tippy and I met with somebody about that yesterday. We're going to be reaching out to her colleagues and hope that some of them might be able to replicate what has happened in Little Rock and might be able to apply for some of these dollars for other places around the state.
So, the UAR neighborhood, which is where I live, food truck, costs $1,200 a day just for 1 stop?
It's approximately, and I think that's the right number. Barrett has it broken out by stop. If you look at, you have to have a CDL driver, you have to have a generator, you have to have a cashier, and so there are 3 employees.
Those aren't volunteers.
And yes, and
so if you go to a church, or one day pass around a hat, it would be just a wonderful thing to do.
it is a wonderful thing to do, and we were really happy that Kevin Shalin and I met with one large church, and they were the folks who raised $225,000. But I would say my church wouldn't come anywhere close to that if we were to raise money. But if a church raises $100 or $150, everything helps, and I think this is a really good project. And I've seen some media coverage from residents out in the neighborhood. I've gone to visit a couple of stops and just tried to talk to some of the shoppers. And people are very happy, because if you're on a limited budget and you don't have access to food, you might be spending $5 or $10 of your money to get to a grocery store, either paying somebody or for public transportation. And I apologize for going on with that answer, but Rip, you had a question.
Yeah, well, first of all, Director Webb, Kathy, thank you for this effort in this space. I've followed it since I've moved back to Little Rock from Boston, Massachusetts, where I lived for a decade. I've been working in this space myself for about 10 years, 5 in Boston and now 5 here. Opened a farmer's market up there in Boston, and actually next Saturday is the opening day of the new West Little Rock Farmers Market, backed by the Blue Cafe, the Arkansas Local Food Network. Director Peck was at our fundraiser a couple months ago, but it's going to be at Breckenridge Village, 8 to 12 noon, starting next Saturday through October. So please, everybody, come to that grand opening. Mayor Scott's doing a press release this Thursday on it. But I want to say,
Send us an email, Rip.
I will, Kathy. I think, ironically, it was 2023. It was the meeting here, Kathy, that I missed. I mentioned to Kathy Webb to have you here, and I missed that meeting. So I'm glad to have you here today and talk about this. You can tell it's something I'm very excited about. The food truck looks amazing. I will share, just to echo your comments, this work requires so many entry points and pieces and moving parts. It's a holistic system. It's just like healthcare or finance or any other big system. It takes so many people in the food system space to make it work. So I encourage everybody to try to support these initiatives like the truck, like the farmers markets. That's the only way we're going to get leaders to recognize that we want money and dollars to go towards this work if we're showing up. I think it's the next block over from where I live downtown, the mobile market has to stop near Buffington Tower. So just wanted to say I commend you on the work because it's hard. It takes many hours and many people. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, and thank you for your support and all you do. And if I can say one more thing about the Food Commission, this isn't the only project that we've worked on. The first thing we did was look at the Little Rock School District meal debt. Is anybody familiar with the school meal debt? You know what that is? About 8 years ago, the legislature passed a bill that said whether or not you have money, a kid is entitled to the same meal that everybody else has. And there was a lot of news about that time around the country about a child going through the cafeteria line and being told that you have a meal debt, and so you get a cheese sandwich today. And so there was a lot of outcry about that. So when the sponsor brought this bill to the legislature, I said, good intent, bad bill, because there's no funding. So it was an unfunded mandate on school districts. And school nutrition programs cut it really close to the edge. And I'll say women, because it's almost all women who run the school nutrition program, do a heck of a job. They love the students they serve, or they wouldn't be doing it. And so school districts started running up huge meal debts, and they don't have the option to recoup that money in some of the places that other parts of the school district does. And so the Food Commission had a press conference to make this thing public, and we helped raise about $25,000 to cover some of the $150,000 meal debt that the Little Rock School District has. The second thing we did during the holidays, we had another press event, and we were able to get Little Rock residents and businesses to help give us money, and we purchased grocery cards at Edwards. They give us a discount on buying cards, and we were able to distribute about $13,000 worth of grocery cards during the holidays. We met with Senator Bozeman's office to talk about the school meal debt. We wanted to make sure they were aware of it. We met with folks at the Department of Ed, and along with Representative McCullough, who went with us that day, to say, look, this is a Little Rock problem, but it is a Springdale problem, it is a Monticello problem, it is a problem all across the state, all four corners, and can y'all please address this? So we've done a lot of things. We presented to the Planning Commission because we wanted them to understand what food deserts were. I think you were there that day. And I think it was the day I found out I had COVID right when I was sitting in that meeting, and was like, oh, I gotta get out of here. And we have presented to the Little Rock City Board to give them highlights of our first year in operation as a commission.
I know that Kathy Wells, when we were officers on DNA downtown Everett, we made a donation to that school meals. I think that's right, Kathy. Wasn't that one of our?
It was the summer lunch program, which is probably keeping to that.
And we meet on Monday, the commission, the Food Commission, we meet the third Monday of the month. We often have visitors who make public comments, tell us about what's going on. The folks who are meeting over there right now, who are talking about the National Garden Project, our conference that's going to be here, have met with us. And on Monday, we'll cover a variety of topics, one of those being WIC. Arkansas has very low participation in the WIC program, and a couple of the things that have happened in the last few years that are very good about WIC are through waivers, and those are expiring the end of September. And so we want to make sure there's a way to get those waivers to continue, so it will be easier for Arkansas moms to sign up for WIC. So we are, and I ran over too, just like he did.
It's fine, my guest is not shown, and I've texted her to say, coming, and I've not had a reply, so we are good. Thank you.
And I do have to go to my other job momentarily, to do voter registration. But,
Goody, we support that.
we are at McMath Library this morning. That's where I came from, doing voter registration at the prom dress giveaway. And I'm on my way to the roller derby in West Little Rock after this.
No corner
I've
unturned.
never been, I am not participating.
Oh, good, you'll live longer. We're so glad to hear
In
that.
case you,
You'll live longer, not participating. We're so glad you're doing that.
and I'm excited about going to roller derby.
Oh, yes, it's a spectator sport, yes.
Is there a game?
There's a big contest today,
Okay.
and so we're
Oh, yeah,
going
the
to
crowds are-
so it's gonna be fun. Robert,
The first free school lunch program in England came about when the army went to Parliament and said, we are not getting enough healthy young men to put in the army because they didn't have enough nutrition when they were growing up.
and that's actually how the first school lunch program started in the United States, when the generals went to the president and said the recruits are malnourished also, so.
At the back of the room there, I think. Gentleman in the back.
I'm glad, we're doing something about the food safety problem, but it kind of feels like it's a Band-Aid, before a big car crash with the data center. Because not only are our bills gonna go up for everybody, specifically for the people that this program will serve, but also, the flooding of, because they're raising what, banks that help, Fourth Street that helps with the flooding, and we had flooding last year, that affected residents, and it just feels like the city is basically not only just giving us, just a glimpse, like I guess little hints that there may be concern, but it just feels like, not that the city is just bending over backwards to being like, hey, please build this, we don't care what we have to sign, but please build it, and we're just stuck with the bill right now. And I'm glad that, these programs are here to, that you're helping build and foster these things, but I think the bigger problem is the one that's gonna be built here, just over here by the port. So, do you think the city is regretting that type of, the decision for not only signing the NDAs, but just, what are you guys gonna try to do to communicate better? Because it feels like, you guys did it without any transparency, and then now it just feels like we're just getting little drips of it. And, you posted about the Amazon closure a couple days ago, but most of the comments are going, like, we're more worried about the data center than we are about anything else. So, do you think, you regret that signing of the NDA, or do you think the city wants to at least try to be more transparent in the future?
I think the lack of transparency is unacceptable, and I know you come to a lot of the city board meetings, and more recently, there are a lot more questions that we are asking about every single purchase that is being made. I met with some folks yesterday at the chamber to talk about the lack of transparency, and so I think we're starting to see a shift, at least among a lot of people, about allowing a lack of transparency. And then and I couldn't hear everything that you said, but when you talked about a Band-Aid, I think that some of the things that we are doing in terms of food insecurity are Band-Aids. One of the issues that we have is that we live in a poor state. We have a lot of folks who don't make a whole lot of money. The last time we got a minimum wage increase was through a citizens ballot initiative. And right now, lawmakers are even trying to take that opportunity away from us. So we could go into a whole holistic discussion of sometimes you put on a Band-Aid while you're continuing to work on the bigger problem. And that's one reason I think it's important for us to have really strong relationships with our legislators. And I like to give my legislator a shout out for a lot of reasons, but one is that she stays on city, county, and local affairs. And that committee is not a glamorous committee in the legislature, but it's very important to the residents of Little Rock. And for example, when you talk about things that are happening with some of the economic development issues, you know, there was a bill last time that would have taken away the city's right to do any zoning. I mean, on a significantly less monumental scale, for the last 2 sessions, they've had bills that would have eliminated a city's right to regulate short-term rentals, which is something that is a big issue in Ward 3. So we've got to look at all of those issues, because sometimes when people come to me and say, I don't like this, and somebody came on a zoning issue recently, and I said, let me see if I can get that fixed. And I went to the city attorney, and he said, no, you can't, because the legislature passed a law, and we have to have the legislature pass a different law, so you can't get that fixed. So it's critical that we continue to talk to our state officials about these issues as well.
Well, just to follow up on one thing, you say, you know, we are a full state and everything, but this data center is literally designed to, you know, take jobs away, you know, to be, you know, we're already having layoffs throughout the whole country. And I mean, it's not like they're building these things out in California, in Silicon Valley, or New York, you know, where these big billion-dollar companies are at. So, you know, I know it's an enormous problem just trying to help the people in the state and specifically in the city. But the city is literally giving abatements and sweetheart deals to the thing that literally is going to make us poor. So I'm just wanting to let you know the concern about everything. We kind of feel upset that every single city director voted unanimously, except for a couple that were absent, you know, to sign the NDA. And we just barely found out it was Google. What was it, a year that we just heard it was just a Willow Wind project. So it's just one of those things that it feels like the mobile market is good, but we got the bigger car crash coming that's over here, and it feels like this is something we need to talk about.
It is something we need to talk about. I thank you for bringing it up.
We do need to let Director Webb go to her next obligation. Very quick.
When does the NDA expire that you signed? A non-disclosure agreement that the board signed?
No, we don't sign non-disclosure agreement. The chamber signs non-disclosure agreements.
It's reported that the board of directors all approved it with signing a non-disclosure.
I haven't signed a non-disclosure agreement.
You signed what was essentially a secret document.
Oh, okay.
You got no details, and you were basically signing it with a name of a local agent. Google appeared nowhere in the document.
Yes, and I'm sorry, Jan, I didn't understand your question.
So you signed a pig in a poke, to use an old Arkansas saying.
And I think you're going to see not much, a lot less of that going forward.
And we have to let her go. She has obligations elsewhere. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We welcome Donna Massey, who is our JP District 6 for a lot of the area we all live in. And she's also the chairman of the Budget Committee. And she is also the one who sponsored the Monday night emergency meeting transfer of funds appropriation. So we asked her here to explain county finances, explain what they operate like, and what she at least is going to recommend going forward to make it better. And then we'll have questions and answers. We'll have the whole hour devoted to this. Donna Massey, JD6, you live in Fair Park, right?
Yes,
There we go, that's her neighborhood.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for inviting me here today. I'm not a financial expert by any means. I do chair our budget, a budget that I've been very confident about up until now. I'm still confident about the budget, but I'm just I believe it was just blindsided, as many of you may have been to hear that we were in a financial situation or crunch. I will say that the money was there, but we had moved it into our reserve fund. And the purpose of doing that, we probably should have put it into reserve, but we put it there just to kind of hide it, because county department heads, when they know that there's a lot of money in our general fund, they often call and say, well, hey, you know, we're needing this and we're needing that, and not needing so much, but wanting, and wanting to spend the money. So we felt, at the time, we felt it best to move it into our emergency reserve. But apparently we moved too much. We were advised, because we always ask those questions of our comptroller and our treasurer when we see her, but we always see the comptroller, he's at most of our meetings. Can we afford to do this? Can we afford to move 10 million or 20 million into our reserve, in additional monies, because by law you're required to hold 10% of your monies, but we put in excess. We have 9 million, which is what is required by law, but we had actually 2 million in our reserve, which was well over what we needed. Once again, that probably wasn't the place to park it. It wasn't there because we wanted to keep it for emergency reserve, like a real emergency. I don't know. It depends on how you define emergency. And forgive me, I have lost my voice. I don't have any voice right now, so I may sound kind of rough, but we put the money there, and then to find out last weekend that we didn't have enough money to make payroll in our general fund. So we had an emergency meeting to move the monies into our general fund, 42 million to be exact. But to find out that we did have money to make our payroll was just shocking to me and the other JPs. And we were told that the year 23, the year 24, the year 25, that we had gone over our budget in the excess of $30 million each year. We're still investigating that, because I just don't understand. I'm just lost. And honestly, all of us are just like, what are you talking about that we've gone over? And this is one of the things that I think that our treasurer was referring to when she said that we had gone over our budget. And I'm going back to 2022. In 2022, we appropriated, let's see. Well, I'm gonna start with 2023, so just a moment. In 2023, we approved our budget the year before, which I'm sure most government agencies do that. So we typically vote to approve our budget in December of the year before. So our budget was approved for 2023. In April, we approved our budget. Let me go back. We approved our budget in April of 22 for 2023. But in April of 2023, we increased our revenue by $30 million. So that was carryover that came in, because we typically get carryover throughout the year. So we received carryover of $30 million. So I think that's where the $30 million came in. We received that money into our general fund. We took $8 million of that $30 million and put it into a contingency fund for M&L, for maintenance and repairs. And then we put the $22 million that was left from that into our emergency reserve. So once again, and this is what we did in 2024. We received another $30 million in April of 2024. We put it into our general fund, because we have to adopt it into the general fund. Then we dispersed it out. We put some into our emergency reserve. The other went into like a contingency fund to take care of maintenance. Our treasurer was saying that we've gone over our budget. Anytime we spend money throughout the year, if someone has to come before us and say, we need $1 million, we need $500,000, we need $2. Anytime we've already adopted our budget, if you come before us and ask for monies after that fact, that's in addition to our budget. That's just a fact. We've always done that. Where the discrepancy is, I don't know. We are still trying to find that out. Like I said, I was just blindsided with this just like everyone else to say that we did have the money. But once again, I understood that we put more monies into our reserve. I don't think we'll do that again, but we did at that time put more monies into our reserve just to get it out of the way of thinking, oh, we've got money, let's spend it. That was just our mindset at the time. And to be honest, the Republicans were very, and I'm not trying to, we always work well together, but some of the Republicans were very adamant that I'm not going to vote to put this money into our general fund. It needs to go into our reserve. And, you know, I'm fine with that. I mean, you know, we all want to keep it. We don't want to spend it right now. And thank God that we didn't, considering we needed it. Now, there's more monies that have been spent, and our treasurer is saying that we have spent $30 million each year since '23. I would like to know, I'd like to know what we did, because I have slept since then. So, as I said, I do know that we've increased our budget by $30 million each year, simply because we received carryover, and that comes from various entities, and we adopted in. That's money that we can spend, that is for us to spend. We chose each year to put most of that into our emergency reserve. We put close to $10 million total all throughout the year, between 2023 to 2025 or 2024. We put monies into a contingency fund so that we could take care of M&L at the Sheriff's Department. I think we did work on the courthouse and things of that nature. But I can't speak for the treasurer, but it sounded to me as if she stated, I felt like she meant that we were spending money well over this, something, $30 million in addition to what we had already received in carryover for the year. So we're waiting to find out what we did, because every time we make a decision to do something, we can confer with our comptroller, and he says, you're good, you're financially good, you can do this. So right now, we're just trying to figure out, and that's going to be a process, we're trying to figure out what happened. Now, I will say this, I'm not pointing the finger at anybody, because it takes two to tango. And in this case, it takes three: the quorum court, the comptroller, and the treasurer. We rely heavily on them to tell us what's going on. The comptroller, I've always believed and trusted in him, and he stated, well, we probably put too much money in reserve. And I'm like, wow, you think? So I'm a little disappointed in that. The comptroller and the treasurer have always had good rapport. Apparently they don't now, because they apparently haven't been communicating. I honestly haven't seen the treasurer since 2024, so, if that tells you anything. She's always at our budget meetings to tell us everything is going great. Well, I didn't see her in 2025.
Were you saying treasurer?
Treasurer.
Because he's male controller and she's female treasurer, and it seems like you misspoke the identity of the one you hadn't seen.
Oh, who did I say I hadn't seen? I'm sorry.
You said the controller, but I rather think you meant the treasurer.
You're absolutely right.
So you don't see the treasurer, Donna, Ms. Buckner, from year to year?
Correct.
Okay, got it.
And that has not always been the case. We always see her at our treasure, at our budget hearings, to tell us if we're doing great or not. And every time I've ever seen her, it's, you're doing great, everything is wonderful. Not saying that you need to just spend all your money, but, she just kind of gives us the financial landscape. And we always rely on her and our comptroller to do that, and they've always worked well together. Well, apparently, I don't know, that apparently is not happening so much now. I'm just, I will say this administration, there has been conflict, I guess. It's quite, I'll give you just a second, quite obvious that, I don't know if anybody watched or was at the meeting Monday night, but, and I think you had missed it, I think it is.
Oh, I was there,
Oh,
front
were you?
row. You're right, conflict is the polite term for what we saw Monday night.
And we were all very disappointed. The treasurer did say, that she sent an email to, our judge, Barry Hyde, to let him know that we were in a financial crisis, that she was, at a point where she was not gonna be able to make, Sue was not gonna be able to make payroll. I respect the email, I think you should send an email, but I'm sorry, if you are the treasurer, if you are in any position, and even me, I'm not going to just send you an email to say the sky is falling. I'm coming to your door, I'm coming to your office, I'm gonna let you know, look, this is serious, we need to deal with this. And, I'm just shocked that that did not happen. They're in the same building. You mean to tell me that she could not go to the comptroller to tell him that? That she could not, and like I said, I think we all bear some responsibility in allowing this to get out of control. But the money was there, we have the money, we put it into the general fund.
I have a question for you about that Monday night appropriation. What the amount in question was totaled $9 million on the payroll, and yet the transfer was $42 million.